This summer, experience the horror, the macabre insanity of the Lakeview Cabin Collection. Own it now on VHS.
Here's a game taken from my lineup of obscurities I want to talk about.
Lakeview Cabin Collection is an amazing game that's perfect for any 80s horror fan. It's actually a sequel to the browser game released in 2013 called Lakeview Cabin, where you play as a little 8-bit ginger man by yourself at a campsite. You might remember that this game was played by pretty much every major YouTuber years back. But despite that, I feel it's mostly flown under the radar for most gamers. The atmosphere here is, on top of the music, which we'll hear in a second, pretty good. Ambient noises like wind blowing, birds and cicadas chirping, and every sound effect is quite crisp and authentic feeling. There's animals to hunt, weeds to cut, a sauna to relax in, but eventually the reanimated corpse of your pregnant dead wife starts coming after you, and you must defend yourself. Don't hide in the loo though. That doesn't work very well. You can knock her on her butt with the bear trap and go all psycho on her face with the axe. But just when you thought it was over, looks like you forgot about someone. What, you're just gonna let yourself get killed by a baby? Toss him in the furnace. Lakeview Cabin 1 is a really good browser game, and a fantastic launchpad for a series. Also, it has an Easter egg that lets you spy on naked girls if you use the binoculars on the left side of the map. Now on to Lakeview Cabin Collection, and as soon as you boot the game up, it becomes immediately apparent how this game is a love letter to 80s horror culture. The level select hub is a movie theater, where they're showing a marathon of the various levels we're going to be playing. Lakeview Cabin 3 all the way to 6. Where's Lakeview Cabin 2, you probably aren't asking? Well, we'll get to that one later, and trust me, you'll understand why. This hub is just a joy to walk around in. Looking at each of the movie marquees and stuff, it's just a delight. But where the heck are the snacks? They've got popcorn, but how does this theater make any money? I guess they must save on plumbing. Another thing I'd like to gush about before we get into it is something that AAA games lack in so much. I mean, just listen to this intro sequence. It's absolutely gushing with 80s horror atmosphere. Whenever I boot this game up, I stay in the hub for a moment just to listen to it. I don't just mean the music either. Every sound is like someone stuck a high quality mic to its real life equivalent. Oh, and one last thing I should probably mention. So, kicking off with Lakeview Cabin 3, you'll find initially that it appears very similar to the first game. In fact, I believe lore-wise, this is the same campsite. The premise here is that you're a group of camp counselors that must survive against 3 different killers as they descend upon the camp. It's worth mentioning that you control each of the characters one at a time and can easily switch between them at will. Each level is a combination of different 80s horror movies and tropes. This one, obviously inspired by the summer camp setting, made popular by movies like Friday the 13th and Sleepaway Camp. In the woods, the killer could be behind any tree. So, fending off killers. How do you do that? By exploring the environment and using your ingenuity to prepare yourself. Pretty much everything in the level is interactable to some degree, and even in ways you wouldn't think of. A locked door? Oh, well, you obviously just have to make every counselor use the bed together so they can all have a foursome, causing the key to fall off the mantelpiece. Or you can just chop it down. Seriously though, you need to prepare yourself using tools found in the environment, or you won't stand a chance. These killers don't mess around. The first one is the Babyface Killer. This guy you can actually find hints toward during gameplay. Vicious and super durable, but you can exploit his stupidity. The second one is actually the protagonist from the first game, Red. Dumbass! And no, I won't be going into all the lore of this game because this script is going to be long enough. Plus, pacing is a thing. The final killer is Ellie, otherwise known as the Siren. She spawns on the eastern dock singing a soft, ominous, melancholic song. And you better love this song like I do, because it makes an appearance in every level. If you're drawn by her music, she attacks you. And you win, kinda, but if you wait for her at the end of the dock with a weapon, you can jump her from behind, giving you an extra picture at the end. Lakeview Cabin 3 is fantastic. I often find myself playing it again just for the atmosphere, and it could have sold me on its own, but this is just one level of 6. On to Lakeview Cabin 4. This level has the most movie inspiration of all of them, being Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Hills Have Eyes, and primarily House of a Thousand Corpses. This becomes obvious by the atmosphere and theme. It's quite different than 3 in that instead of lulling you into a relaxing atmosphere, it's immediately abrasive and uncomfortable. And the premise matches how you feel in the situation. This is the one that most people quit playing early on, and probably what caused the abysmal achievement ratios. This level feels impossible the first time you play it, because it can be really confusing and, like I said, really uncomfortable. You're a group of ladies in a band that are trapped in a compound wherein is a house inhabited by a family of psychotic killers. Dang, what a mouthful. You need to enter their home and slaughterhouse that have randomly generated interiors to find gas cans to fuel your van and escape. The house has 2 paths. One leads to the basement, the other leads to the attic. But almost every room is inhabited by family members that you need to get past, who of course attack you on sight. These people are quite eccentric. It's best to try sneaking past them as long as you can, because if they spot you, they'll trigger the alarm. And if the alarm goes... Introducing your most common way of getting killed. These horrible, disgusting rodents are basically the house security system. They chill by themselves in the attic until the alarm is rung, which then prompts them to climb in the vents and appear randomly all over the house. They're super fast and unkillable, so when you hear the sound of them crawling through, you better hide. And while you're being mercilessly mauled by giant rats, you'll become well acquainted with the sanity system. This is another tie to House of a Thousand Corpses, in that getting hit, witnessing violent actions, or having gore dumped on you caused your sanity to nosedive, making the screen go red and nauseatingly wobble. While a horrific background track gets louder and louder. And you start witnessing the worst kind of hallucinations, jump scare hallucinations. The only way to fix this is by chilling outside for a moment and soaking in that vitamin D. Let's check out the Slaughterhouse. The Slaughterhouse is one of the 3 entrances to their home, the other 2 being the front door and the trapdoor the insane lady falls down. If only she'd take a moment to bathe in the sunlight. There's 2 different paths. One takes you to a gas can, the other takes you into the house. Both are ridden with dangerous obstacles, but be careful once you make it to the end of the gas can route. Yeah, you better run. Though you have to be super cautious while making your escape from him as he cuts down doors behind you, because one door is the way you came in, and the other leads to certain death. And if you lose one gas can, it's game over. So if you don't remember which way you took, you can peek through the keyhole by holding up to see what's on the other side before you go through. Keyhole peeking is absolutely imperative to survival. I mean, you never know. There could be a rat on the other side. But once you make it out, or not, you better make sure the rest of your party are hiding, because Piggy ain't gonna stop looking for you. In fact, from now on, he will rampage all the way over to the eastern side of the level, fall in the trapdoor, and run all the way through the house and out the front again ad infinitum, and attacking anyone who gets in his way, including other enemies. This is by far the best way to clear out the basement around the house, but now, whenever you're over there, you gotta remember that he's coming, and nothing can stop him, except for the hypnosis wheel you can find randomly in the basement. I mean, you can kill him, but it's really not worth trying unless you're achievement hunting. Once you've got all the gas cans, you may also want to save the pregnant woman trapped in the attic too, because once she's outside, she gives you a key that you can use to activate some lore floor hidden in the house if you're lucky enough. At the end, you all jump in the van, or what's left of you all, and crash your way out of the compound, giving us one final lore-related shot. Lakeview Cabin 4 is great. It's super challenging, which is nice if you like that sort of thing, and I do. I like it hard. And I think it really nails the atmosphere it was inspired by. If you like grindhouse horror, Lakeview Cabin 4 will definitely please you. It's a good thing the first 2 levels were so awesome, because now we're gonna look at something not so. Lakeview Cabin 5 starts out really cool and fun with this entertaining Happy Dad minigame. This could have been a genuine 80s arcade cabinet. The gameplay is addicting and challenging, and the speed of the enemies increases with each point you get, which gives you a sense that it's got a pretty high skill ceiling. Also, the music is super catchy in Halloween. But unfortunately, this isn't the whole level. I don't consider Lakeview Cabin 5 to be very good, for a few reasons, which is really sad because the game's theme is based off 2 of the best horror movies ever made, Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween. And you can feel it too. It has a very subtle atmosphere with ominous music playing in the background the whole time, leaves falling from trees, wind blowing, and even jack-o'-lanterns! Sadly, this is where the good things end. You're a group of teenagers in a suburban neighborhood that are being stalked by a masked killer, and you need to find a way to fight back against him. Now, if you were being stalked by a killer, what would you do? If your answer is summon 3 separate demons to banish him to hell, then you've probably played this game before, or are really weird. This level makes the worst sin a game can make. It gets really boring, really fast. In fact, the more you learn about it, the more boring it gets. It's like this level was determined to ruin its atmosphere. What's the most important thing you need for a game to be scary? Danger, right? Well, it will be somewhat scary up until the moment you die. Death causes you to enter a state of limbo, where you can then resurrect yourself. All danger and fear gone, especially considering you can just throw literally anything at the guy to make him go away. It's not like you can avoid him either. He just has a chance to appear when you enter an area. Not very interesting. But the worst part is the puzzles. You, a casual player, will not figure these out by yourself. They're ridiculously cryptic and just not fun to figure out. The first one is a summoning circle with 4 symbols, and no hint as to what to do with it, unless you think this counts. Which I don't. What you need to do is kill each of the characters in very specific ways. One needs to fall to their death, one needs to be stabbed by the killer, one needs to overdose on prescription medication, and the last one needs to be shot by the police. No comment. Position each one of them on the right circle and bam, Pinhead Larry rises out of the ground. Yay, fun puzzle. The second puzzle is just awkward and even worse than the first. First, you need the head of a mannequin that you can find hidden behind this painting in the living room, hinted at by a ghost in the limbo realm. Then take that head to its body in the attic. Take the mannequin to the bedroom, then bring the sister and brother characters to the bedroom, undress them, and this act wakes him up. Again, no comment. The third is most convoluted, but I won't get into it. It'd be even more of a mouthful, so I'll not mention it to spare your sanity. And on top of all these annoying puzzles, once you summon a demon, you need to have them attack the killer, which only happens when he decides to show up. So you'll just be wandering all over the map, waiting for him to eventually show himself. This level is super buggy too, for whatever reason, which heightens its frustration factor. If it's not the first puzzle just not working, it's the killer never showing up, which is a huge problem because you need him to show up to progress. This is the reason I never got any footage of any of the 3 endings. I'd do all the puzzles, but he'd never show, so I'd get bored and quit. In comparison to the other levels, Lakeview Cabin 5 is not very good, and in my opinion, could have been greatly improved. Just allowing us to summon the killer on command would have helped a great deal. I don't think I can talk highly about something that makes you look this unstimulated. that was a frustrating mouthful. But thankfully, we're now back to fantastic. Lakeview Cabin 6! Cabin 6 is inspired by two of the greatest movies ever made. John Carpenter's The Thing and Aliens. Does that not sound like the greatest movie ever? And yes, it begins with the Earth blowing up. Don't ask, because I don't have answers. In Cabin 6, you're part of a crew on board a huge research space station run by Space Trump, with doctors and soldiers, and one of them is not who they seem. The atmosphere matches the source material perfectly, claustrophobia to the max, and you'll feel on edge the whole time, especially when things get real. When you're playing for the first time, you'll be wandering around the space station getting your bearings when suddenly, a subtle track begins to play in the background. This piece of music is so anxiety-inducing for me, as it personifies the general sense that something is wrong and something bad is about to happen. This music signifies that the monster has just exposed itself and is now wreaking havoc wherever it is. These aliens are initially quite small, but can infect other crewmates, including you, causing you to get one yourself, which will eventually grow to the size of an adult. As you can imagine, unless you get this outbreak under control, it will get out of hand real fast. Your goal is to prepare for this outbreak by figuring out who's infected through the usage of a blood tester before they can expose themselves, just like in the movie. You then escort that crew member to a spot where they can be isolated so that you have time to evacuate people for the good ending, and then deal with the alien. Once all presence of aliens are destroyed, it prompts a final confrontation with Ellie at the bridge while the self-destruct sequence counts out. But if you prepare correctly, she's not too difficult. And unlike the other episodes, getting everything you need in one spot is made oh so easy thanks to the ship's pneumatic delivery system. Yup, if at any time you need to give an item from one character to another, just pop it in, switch character, and there you go. Though this is super convenient for the aliens too, because it also happens to be the way they travel around the station. And once Ellie's dead and all the crew members are evacuated, including the soldiers who just punch you in the face every time you try to lead them, stop doing that, I'm trying to save you! You get the good ending where Space Trump offers you a hug. Cabin 6 is my second favorite level and is such a breath of fresh air in comparison to the previous. But there's one more we didn't talk about, isn't there? I left Lakeview Cabin 2 for the end because it's not really part of the gameplay experience, and is used primarily to convey lore for the game's universe. It's even hidden away from you. In the hub, if you go to the only theater that you can't enter and type open on your keyboard, it unlocks. Entering the level, you'll see it takes a bunch of inspiration from movies that use non-linear storylines, similar to a movie like Jacob's Ladder, giving you a bunch of scenes that don't make much sense by themselves, but if you take time, you can fit each one into the game's lore. It's really well done stuff. This is the only time that the game abandons its more arcadey style to be more like a horror game. The only thing I need to mention is that it also happens to contain the most detailed pixelated sex scene you'll see outside of an H game. I'm serious, this will make your jaw drop to the floor the first time you see it. And other than the mini-sode inside the movie rental shop called Last Christmas, which lasts for about 10 minutes, that's Lakeview Cabin Collection. This really is one of the most faithful homages to horror. I would have liked a few references to 1930s classics, as they really deserve it, but if you're a fan of 80s horror and video games, this is mandatory. Give the guy behind it, Roop Tamman, some attention, because he's one of those indie devs that should really get more. I find myself coming back to this game constantly, because it deeply satisfies my love for the entertainment only the horror genre can provide. Mainly Lakeview Cabin 3, but there's something in here for every horror fan. Trust me, give it a go. I mean, it's only like 10 bucks on Steam, come on. Hi. Thank you so much for making it to the end. I am so very grateful. This one took a lot longer than I would have liked it to, admittedly. I mean, I've never really done a video that's this long before, but maintaining a full-time job and just learning about the whole process tends to make things take a little longer. I can only work on it a few hours in the morning, but I definitely intend to do more because it's something that I really, really love. It's like the most creative thing I've ever done, and I definitely plan to keep on going, but yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And again, thanks for making it to the end. I'm Chief Balupa. Have a wonderful day. Also subscribe, I forgot to say that.